How's it going, guys? Kevin back at you with another video. It's been too long since a new design has come out for one of my Clipless systems, and I thought this truck, the Losi, excuse me, not the Losi, I thought it would be a Losi, but it's the FMS Rock Racer U4. This thing is super cool, super awesome. Today's video, I'm going to show you guys how it works, how to install it, and then in another video, we're going to take it for a rip. You can already see the front end is nice and cleaned up. No more body clips on this guy. So with that, let's get into it. So I'm going to start off by just showing you guys how it functions so you guys are ready to use it. So the way that this latch works in the front is it is actually just a single direction. So you always have to come in from the driver's side. Just reach under here. You'll find the two bolts sticking down and basically just reach and slide across. Once you slide all the way out, you'll feel the front end easily come up. And in the rear, it's a similar sort of twist mechanism where you'll reach in and basically twist one of the two levers until they are straight. You have one on either side. Once you basically make them straight, horizontal, or perpendicular to the truck, then you can basically just lift up the body straight up and tilt it backwards. Now, keep in mind, you're going to have this light connection for the light bar, so just be careful. But you can see we have the front latch, the body side front latch, and then the two rear latches. So essentially this piece, you are swinging it in and out just like so to lock it. And then the rear, you have one here and one here just like so, but for the rear end. So to put that back in reverse here, so putting the body on, drop that down, make sure it's all the way down through the post there. This guy, reach in, you're gonna slide that forward. You'll find it guide and grab in, and then you're good. In the rear, you're gonna reach underneath, just twist it 90 degrees, nice and simple. If it's not going, it's probably because you're picking up on the truck. So I recommend just reach in. You should be able to reach just the one that's sticking out and basically just give it a little twist, and then you can kind of just pick up in the rear, make sure that it's nice and secure, and it's not going anywhere. This thing is super strong. As with all my designs, I don't recommend that you pick them up by the body because that does put all the stress directly into the part. But I do know that these parts are designed to be as strong as humanly possible, so they should be able to take quite a bit of it. But with that, let's get into the install. To start out here, removing the body is super simple. There's bolts all around it. Haven't counted them all, but basically all the ones here that I'm pointing at. And then of course remove this because we will no longer need our body clips. And then there are two bolts on the light bar, one here, one here. Remove those two, and then this cable that's going to the light bar, that's going to fish down underneath, and it is going to be zip tied to the roll cage. You can kind of see it's going to be zip tied in there, so you are going to need to just clip those zip ties, and then there's a plug in the back down there that you can see, and you'll just need to unplug that, and then you can fish that wire out as you're taking the body off, basically taking out that light bar through the gap. Otherwise you will not be able to remove the body. Then after the body's removed, we can start on the rear mount. All right, starting on the rear here, after we have removed the body, we're going to basically install this upper piece as well as the two twist pieces. So the longer M4 by 30s, these are going to be what's used to attach the lower pieces here. So I'm going to lift this up so you can see the underside. I highly recommend that you do this off of the truck. So you can see these are countersunk just so we don't need to have a crazy long bolt. But you're going to bolt these up to this piece. This piece on the top is symmetrical, so you can flip it upside down, right side up, doesn't really matter. Just need to make sure that this is the correct setup with this sticking out the back there. But you're going to tighten that down with the lock nuts, and essentially what you want to do is you want to make it so that it has just a little bit of resistance, but that it can't spin freely on its own, and that with vibration it's not going to twist on you. So just a little bit of resistance, nothing too crazy. You can see here, if I push it with one hand, it just, a little bit of effort, but with two hands, much easier. But again, I can kind of push it with one, just to give you an idea of sort of the effort that I have on mine. Underneath, you're going to remove the bolts that are holding this on. I'm including some M3 by 8 millimeters, shorter ones in the kit here. And the reason for that is we're going to basically share the threads on this piece. On this lower portion, we're not going to share the threads. So you're going to remove the factory bolts, then put in the M3 by 8s that I've provided in the kit here. And on the top side, you're going to put the M3 by 12s in the forwardmost, because those are going to share the same threads underneath, and then most of the heavy lifting is going to be done by these bolts, which are M3 by 16s in the rear. So again, M3 by 16, M3 by 16, M3 by 12, M3 by 12, and underside, M3 by 8, M3 by 8. And then once you have that on, it should be nice and easy. You basically just drop this down, and then once you have the body on, you're just basically going to reach in. You can see I just push that over. It's going to twist and lock. Same thing from the other side. Reach in and just push that, and then now it is locked in the rear, and then the front will jump to the install shortly. But now you can see super nice and sturdy. It's not going absolutely anywhere. So with that, let's jump into the front install. All right, so now we're working on the front. So this piece is going to be held in with 4 bolts that go through the front here and then thread into this guy here. So you're going to remove that, and then you're going to take the included piece with the M3 by 35 millimeter bolts, and you're essentially going to thread this through this piece. I recommend you do that just off the truck. I'll show you here in a second. And then you're going to add your M3 lock nuts on the end. So let me show you how that's done. So using your drill here, you're going to take this piece and basically start to feed it through there. And then you can see here. There you go. We don't need to go crazy tight just so that it's on. So I'll repeat that for the other 3. And then I'll jump back over. So once you're done, it will look like this, and now we can move this onto the truck. So just gonna find those 4 holes, basically slide that guy in, just push it a little bit left and right. And then now I recommend, let me just tilt this up for you. I recommend if you have something like this, then you can take your M3 lock nut, put it in here, and then nice and carefully, you're just gonna slowly start to work that on. Being careful not to strip anything. So gonna go tighten that down. Doesn't need to be crazy tight, just snug, but once that lock nut's on there, you can go do the other 3, and then the front end on the chassis portion will be done. We can move to the body. So now we're looking at the rest of the hardware for the front top. So these 2 pieces are gonna look identical, except one of them has the notches for the nuts, and you can tell it's the rear by the fact that one of them is smooth, and this is where this piece is going to eventually slide and pivot on. So you have 3 M3 by 10 with the normal nuts, and then M4 by 10, and then 1 M4 lock nut and 1 M4 by 30. So essentially what we're going to want to do, since these pieces this is sandwiched between the 2 pieces, is we're going to connect this to the chassis first, and this basically goes up here. So let me get the camera set up and I'll show you how that goes on. So this will be a little bit harder to film, but essentially what you're going to want to do is you can start with a bolt through here, find the front nut. These guys are going to match up just like this, and you're going to sandwich them between these 2 plates. So I like to just take my nut, sort of drop it in there, just sort of hold it with my hand rested in, and then come underneath, drop the nut. But you have to avoid trying to do. It's a little bit harder, or a little bit easier when you're holding this up. You're not trying to also film at the same time. So just gonna drop that there, and then basically just slowly start tightening it. You can see it's gonna grab pretty easily right there. No trouble. So do the other 2, nice and quick. And once you get all of them, just gotta find the last nut here. So I'll do that last one. And once you can confirm underneath that they're all in the right slot, so this one's actually trying to sneak out a little bit. So then you can tighten all 3 of them down. You don't need to go crazy, but just nice and snug, tighten them up good. And then we're going to take our M4 by 30 and our swiveling piece. And before we do that, it's actually probably easier. You can see these 2 holes here. So I'm including an M3 by 16. You can feel free to change this later on, but these are threaded into the piece. The idea is basically to push down and give you something to reach on and grab with your fingers. It's super easy. The nice thing about using the bolts here is you can easily make it height adjustable for how far down you want it to stick. If you want it to be lower profile or longer profile, you can change these screws at a later date to make it easier or more difficult depending on what you'd like for this setup, depending on if you have some other things in this area. So I'm gonna take this, use my drill bit, just tighten this down real quick. Not my drill bit, but my drill, just to make it a little bit faster. So before we finish that up, we're gonna take this piece and the M3x16, and we're gonna thread this through each of the holes here. Now, anytime you're basically self-tapping into this resin, you're gonna get some extra shards. Just throw that in the trash. It's just gonna be a little bit of the plastic, but don't over tighten this because you will eventually strip these threads. It's not the end of the world because you can always put a knot on the bottom side, but we're gonna put the second one in, and then this is gonna give you something to grab onto basically once you slide that down. So let me do the second one here. I have the second one in, and I went and just brushed the plastic debris off of this, but this is essentially what you're gonna go and grab onto. So the last piece of the puzzle here, our M4x30, I'm gonna slide that through here. Should just slide straight down. Then you can see it's getting stuck a little bit there. Just gotta push it a little bit harder. Then we're gonna slide this underneath. Sometimes it helps to just thread that just a little bit. So I'm gonna grab my drill here just because it's a little bit easier. Just to help it basically find its home. Now keep in mind, this is basically a through hole, so this is not threading into this. You can see this is spinning and the bolt isn't. So I'm gonna grab my M4 lock nut, tighten that on there. And then now this part is a little bit more critical, so I'm gonna use one of my armor wrenches, but I'm gonna start tightening that down, but I don't wanna go too crazy tight because I actually do wanna do this one by hand. And the reason I wanna do this one by hand is because this is what's gonna affect how tight this is and how hard it is to spin. So you can see right now, there's a decent bit of resistance, but it's not too hard. So this is actually pretty nice. So I'm gonna back this up just so you can get a little bit of a better perspective on it. Now I'm gonna drop this in. So drop that in and then reach under here, slide this out, make sure that's going down all the way, and then slide that in just like so. And then you can see it's nice and locked in there. So now that the front is nice and done, you can see you'll be able to just reach in, grab those two screws, slide it open, and then this will open up just like that. Reach in, slide it back, and then this has a hard stop, so that way when you know when you're opening it, when you're closing it, you just push it until it stops, and then you know it's in and locked. And as long as you apply enough pressure on this so that this guy, even under vibrations, it's not going to slide back and forth. So you do want some resistance. Just keep that in mind. That's why this is a lock nut and not a normal nut. But that will keep it from backing out, as well as the friction in here, so it won't swing open during your drive. So with that, we can put the body back in, reinstall the light bar and the lights, plug those in, and then we will be done with the install. And that about wraps it up. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them down below. I know there's a lot of hardware to this kit, so try not to get any of that confused. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can contact me on Etsy or on my website at finelaserdesigns.com. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time.